Okay, here we have source B. Now you can see in source B, I haven't really highlighted as much stuff maybe as source A. If you read through this one, it's a very pro-monolingualism passage. The author of this is arguing heavily in favor that students don't really need to learn multiple languages if they speak English. They should be well equipped to travel the world and do whatever just using English. But there are a few things that I found kind of interesting here. In the first two lines, the Department for Education figures show that fewer and fewer of us are learning a foreign language, while more and more foreigners are becoming multilingual. So that's interesting to me because it has a fact there. I always like to collect facts. And of course, if foreigners are becoming more multilingual, probably more of them are learning to speak English, which would then be very favorable for English native speakers. Because, if the foreigners are able to speak English, then what's the need for the monolingual English speaker to learn another language? This second quote here, learning foreign languages is a pleasant form of intellectual self-improvement. Now, this is kind of an interesting part here, because even though this guy is pro-monolingualism, he still concedes, he still makes a concession that there are some benefits to being multilingual. He says it does have intellectual self-improvement potential. So he acknowledges that it is good for your mind and your brain. Now, some students always ask me, Mr. Kirby, is that okay to use, if you have someone who is pro one approach and then they make a concession, are you allowed to use that concession? Yes, absolutely. You can totally use that concession. You can use that as evidence in your essay. So just because a source is going in one direction, but maybe they have a few facts that go against their thesis, you're still allowed to use that as evidence in your essay. Okay, let's move on. If you ever go, as I have, to one of the horrendous international junkets which film studios hold to promote their latest blockbusters, you'll encounter a single extraordinary language that, say, the Brazilian, Swedish, Japanese, and Italian reporters use both to chat with one another and question the American stars. This is the language of science, commerce, global politics, aviation, popular music, and above all, the internet. It's the language that 85% of all Europeans learn as their second language, which goes back to what I said in the first two lines. The language that has become the default tongue of the EU, okay, which is obviously English. So you can see this guy has a lot of facts and statistics which would be very useful if you were going to make a monolingualism argument. You'd be able to use a lot of these details as a journalist, I guess, who has traveled the world. He has a lot of anecdotes and evidence to support the fact that he's done just fine with being monolingual, and it doesn't seem to have, negatively impacted him at all. Okay, so you can see what we're doing here. We're constantly skimming, reading, looking for salient details. We haven't made our mind up yet. Something else I'd like to highlight here is this quote here. This learning foreign languages is a pleasant form of intellectual self-improvement. Doesn't that ring a bell with source A? That was also a point that they made in source A. These kind of overlaps are really important because now you're starting to think, oh, okay, maybe I can construct an entire paragraph with that. Maybe I can write a paragraph on the intellectual benefits of, say, foreign language learning, being multilingual. Okay, great. We'll move on to the next source after this, so I'll see you in the next video.